Greetings, subscribers! Smallville was a popular TV show which ran from 2001 through 2011 and was mainly about young Clark Kent before becoming Superman. But throughout the seasons, it often brought on many different DC comic characters as guests. And today, I'd like to go over the highlights of Cyborg on Smallville and then offer my opinion. But first, I just want to give a quick shout out to Andres Arroyo, a loyal subscriber of mine who has left a lot of nice comments in many videos and asked for a mention in one. So Andres, I hope you're doing well and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Anyway, Season 5's 15th episode, titled Cyborg, opens with a young man caged alone in a robotic lab. We can safely assume that's Victor Stone. A scientist walks over, unlocks the cage, and gives Victor an injection to wake him up. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, and the scientist advises Victor to run, which he does. We quickly see other scientists and armed security guards trying to capture Victor alive. It's clear that Victor is a good athlete, but it's not until he breaks through locked metal doors that it becomes perfectly clear he's something more than human. Lana Lang happens to be driving through Metropolis and accidentally hits Victor, injuring herself, totaling her car, yet not putting a scratch on Victor. He takes her to the hospital and then runs away without telling her any info about himself. Lana calls Clark for help and he super speeds over. When he arrives, Lana gives a basic description of what Victor looked like, so Clark goes searching. Despite the fact that Victor steals some clothes from the hospital, Clark is quickly able to recognize him and approaches him. He then says he recognizes him from a high school football match they played the previous year. Note this is true to the comics that Victor grew up playing football, but when my friends and I were watching this the first time it aired in 2006, we were saying, these two characters should not have played each other in a high school football match. Cyborg is about the same age as Dick Grayson / Robin, as they're part of the Titans, and Superman is supposed to be about the same age as Batman. Since then, DC has rebooted their stories so many times, I can't keep up with it all, but this is what us comic geeks were saying when the episode first aired back in 2006. Anyway, Clark then X-rays Victor and sees his interior robotic parts, which look very similar to the exterior robotic parts Victor has in the comics. Clark brings Victor to the Kent farm. Victor looks over an article which says he and his whole family died in a car accident. The author was obviously unaware that Victor was later brought back to life in a lab. Note this is different than the comic story I was familiar with, in which Victor's parents were scientists, one of their experiments hurt Victor, and then his father rebuilt him as a cyborg. But I know there have been many different stories, and I think this story on Smallville worked well in a different way. Anyway, Victor shows him a picture of his girlfriend Catherine, who does not know he's still alive. Victor doesn't want her to see him with all these robotic parts. Clark mentions that his friend Chloe, who works at the Daily Planet, could probably do some research and help figure out who these scientists are and what they want to do with Victor. We learn this lab is owned by Luthor Corp. So Clark approaches Lex Luthor. Lex denies knowing anything about Victor, but says if anything goes wrong in the lab, he'll handle it. Back at the Kent farm, Lana and Victor talk, but suddenly scientists from the lab show up, shoot Victor, knock down Lana, but suddenly Clark shows up to rescue them. We see Victor bleeding black blood, as he does in the comics. Clark and Lana bring Victor to Lois Lane's apartment when she's not there. We then see some of Victor's robotic insides. Victor says he thinks he's dying. Clark goes back to the Daily Planet. Chloe says she's done some more research, and there was one bad scientist at the lab named Dr. Alistair Krieg, and another good one named Dr. Hong, who we can safely assume was the one who set Victor free in the beginning. So Clark goes to Dr. Hong's house, only to find he was murdered in his car. Lex shows up and says he had nothing to do with the murder, and knows Dr. Krieg is evil, and will do anything he can to help Victor. Victor decides he wants to see Catherine one last time before he dies, and when he arrives at Catherine's home, he sees Dr. Krieg. Victor agrees to go back to the lab, and after he leaves, Lex shows up, revealing that he's been working with Krieg the whole time and lying. At the lab, Krieg and Lex say they're going to do further alterations to Victor's body, and Victor makes it clear he doesn't want it. Just before more drilling, Clark shows up to save Victor and free him. They run away together, off a rooftop. Clark later returns to Luthor Mansion, where Lex denies everything, but also says he has enough projects to focus on, so he'll just forget all about Victor. Back at the Kent farm, Victor says he's feeling completely better. He thanks Clark profusely, Clark tells Victor to return the favor by helping out someone else in need someday. And then Lana shows up with Catherine, who is stunned to see Victor. They hug, and that's how Victor's story on this episode ends. Season 6 of Smallville introduced the character of Oliver Queen, a.k.a. the Green Arrow, who was the first hero we saw to actually put on a suit and use a code name. And in Season 6's 11th episode, titled Justice, we learned that Green Arrow was secretly working with other heroes we've previously seen on the show, such as Bart Allen, a.k.a. Impulse, Arthur Curry, a.k.a. Aquaman, and Victor Stone, a.k.a. Cyborg. I thought this entire episode was spectacular. There are endless great things I could say about it, including the fact that I think this episode helped pave the way for the Avengers movies. However, today I'm looking to keep this video focused on the character of Cyborg. So I'll just say we learned that he broke up with Catherine and teamed up with Oliver. In a platonic way, I believe. In the climax, we see his suit, hear his code name, and see him hack into a computer with one of his eyes turning red, like in the comics. We see some examples of him running by people with enhanced speed and strength. The episode ends with seeing that Victor is still a solid member of the team, ready to take part in future missions. But in future episodes, we only see the Justice League in fragmented teams. Aside from a few quick still images here and there, the only time we ever really see Victor again is in Season 9's 21st episode, the season finale titled Salvation, in which there's one scene of various members of the Justice League and Justice Society having a virtual meeting. And that's really the end of Victor's story on this show. Okay, so what was my opinion of Victor Stone on Smallville? I thought the portrayal was excellent. The best part of all was the performance of actor Lee Thompson-Young. He really just nailed it. Sadly, the actor has since passed away. I did find it interesting to look on his IMDb page and learn that he was only 5 foot 7 inches tall, which seems kind of short for a football player. But with his strong performance, you never even noticed. I guess it also didn't hurt that he was muscular, but he just did a fantastic job portraying the mix of emotions for loved ones who are now gone, with good morals, willingness to use his ability to do the right thing, and confidence. Now I'd also like to talk a little about the look of Cyborg. I talked about this once before in a video I posted called The Best Live Action Cyborg. Some critics might say it was cheap of the producers to say all robotic parts were underneath his skin, having to almost never show them. But to me, this made it so nothing ever looked corny. I personally am of the belief that practical effects are almost always better than CGI. And when I look at the Cyborg in the Justice League movie, it just looks like an actor with computer graphics around him. It looks ridiculously unbelievable to me. And looking back at a movie like RoboCop, the practical effects there still hold up amazingly convincing, suggesting practical effects are always the way to go. However, in 2019, a show called Doom Patrol was started, in which Cyborg is a regular, done with practical effects. Honestly, I haven't watched that much of Doom Patrol, but from what I have seen, as much as I hate to say it, this particular practical effect does not look fully convincing to me either. It looks more like he's wearing a mask for Halloween that he can take right off, than like he really has his robotic parts attached to him. So, not all practical effects can look as convincing as RoboCop. And if I had to pick a most believable look for Victor Stone's Cyborg in live action, Smallville is still the winner for me. But in all honesty, I've never seen a look for Cyborg in live action which I consider to be near perfect. Before ending this video, I'd like to leave you a little trivia. Actor Lee Thompson-Young was in many other films and TV shows, including 2001's Jet Jackson the Movie, which also starred actor Michael Ironside, who played the role of Lois's father, Sam Lane, on Smallville. And he can be seen in a lot of other great stuff. I'll also mention that Jet Jackson the Movie was directed by Sean Levy, who also directed Tom Welling in the 2003 reboot of Cheaper by the Dozen, which I think is possibly the #1 worst movie I have ever seen in my life. And that's basically it for today. That's my review of Cyborg on Smallville with a tiny bit of extra trivia. But of course I hope you understand, my video was no substitute for watching the actual episodes of Smallville. And as always, I'd like to hear some feedback from you viewers. Do you agree with my opinions? Why or why not? Or if you haven't seen the episodes, then has this video made you want to watch them? Please leave it all in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please hit like. And if you want to see more of my videos, then please feel free to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. I would love to have you. Thank you.